meeting when the only guy we can attract is Larry. Welcome to the September 16th, 2019 Frankfort Village Board meeting. We call this meeting to order and we ask our clerk, Jean Savaria, to take the roll, please.
Mayor Holland.
Here.
Trustee Borelli.
Here.
Trustee Clavio.
Here.
Trustee Farina.
Here.
Trustee Ogle.
Here.
Trustee Petro is absent. Trustee Trevarthen.
Here.
Attorney Lamore. Chief Barika. Admin Pisha.
Here.
Admin Cook.
Here.
Very nice.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on our agenda is what we call the unanimous consent agenda. All items on the unanimous consent agenda are considered routine in nature and will be voted on after a single motion. If one of the trustees wants to discuss one of the items in more detail, we'll just remove that item from the consent agenda. So I first ask, do any trustees want to remove any items from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'm going to so move it.
I'll second.
Motion by trustee Trevarthen and a second by trustee Ogle to approve the consent agenda. We do want the audience here in our boardroom and the audience at home on the internet and on the television to know something about the items that we're passing tonight, so or I suppose that we're failing tonight, but we do want people to know what we're voting about. So we'll go over each one of them just briefly. The first item is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was on September 3rd. And the second item is the approval of the bills and the payroll. And we'll go to our chairperson of the Finance Committee, Adam Borelli, for comments on the bills.
Thank you, Mayor. The bills tonight total $629,372.21. The largest item that we're approving tonight, largest single item we're approving tonight is for road resurfacing, and that's to PT Faro, $267,446.41. I'd also note there's a line payment to Tesca Associates for $5,028.75. They, of course, are finalizing our comprehensive plan, and I know the mayor's going to talk about that in his report later on. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Adam. And then we'll go back to trustee Borelli for a couple of items from our Financial Affairs Committee that met last week, and these are a couple of very important items to our community.
Thanks again, Mayor. So we talked at our last committee meeting, we talked about the comprehensive annual financial report. The village is required to complete a set of financial statements which are presented in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles within 6 months following the close of the fiscal year that ended on April 30th. The report is a culmination of the past year's financial activities and is the formal mechanism used to communicate to the public the financial status of the village. These financial statements are audited by a licensed certified public accountant firm, Lauterbach and Amen, in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. The village's fiscal year runs from May 1st through April 30th. At the Financial Affairs Committee public meeting held last Wednesday, Lauterbach and Amen Representative Matt Barron presented the information from the audit to the village's corporate authorities and committee members. It was the consensus of the committee to forward a recommendation to the village board to accept the Village of Frankfort's comprehensive annual financial report for the FY ending in April 30th, 2019. And so the motion was to accept the recommendation of the Financial Affairs Committee to accept the Village of Frankfort's CAFR for the fiscal year ending April 30th, 2019. So the second item is Lauterbach and Amen letter of engagement for auditing services, and this is for the next 5 years. At that same committee meeting, the Financial Affairs Committee reviewed a letter of engagement from Lauterbach and Amen for professional auditing services for the next 5 fiscal years. The contract may be terminated by either party with written notice by the first of the year for the upcoming audit. It was the consensus of the committee to forward a recommendation to the village board to award a 5-year auditing services contract to Lauterbach and Amen as presented. So that motion was to to accept the recommendation of the Financial Affairs Committee and adopt a resolution authorizing the execution of a letter of engagement for a 5-year auditing services contract between the Village of Frankfort and Lauterbach and Amon for the fiscal years ending April 30th, 2020, 2021, 22, 23, and 2024. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Adam. And now we'll go to Trustee Trevarthen for a report on some 3 items that came up at our Operations Committee report last week.
Mayor, there's 3 items on here, and I suppose I should apologize for not making a committee meeting. But my first item here is something that is needed to be done in this town for 25, 30 years. All these manholes that leak all the time and all the pipe work we had that leak. I'm glad to see that we hire an engineering company to go around the Baxter and Woodman and to identify all these particular deficiencies that we have. And all the, since we have the new filtration plant, we definitely have the holding capacity for it, but we need to do that so we can get to work on these things. So we hired Baxter and Woodman for $61,300 to help us to proceed with this whole process, and it couldn't be done quicker for me. Second item I have is roof replacement project, 123 Kansas Street, resolution. I'd like to make a fast comment. In 1971, I was first elected. We had a little table in there, and that's where the village board meetings were held. This little table held 6 trustees and the mayor. And there was one other table that held the clerk and the secretary, and that was it. Usually maybe 4 chairs in the back for visitors who would come in. And if they weren't on the agenda, they didn't get a chance to speak. So anyway, the village received 2 bids for the project to fix a roof. And they've chosen FILOTT, Flat Auto Roofing, in the amount of $13,130 to match the existing roof. And I understand everything's been approved by the Historic Reservation Commission for this project. So I think we're all set to go. There was 2 bids, and this gentleman won the bid, and if it's necessary, this has to be done. The third item I have is police department, and I already asked John about the hybrid vehicles. He hasn't got the first one yet, right, John? So he needs another one, so he wants to get one, trade one in. It's a 2011. It's got 110,000 miles on it. And it has a lot of mechanical issues, which we can't handle. We have to put it into a regular garage and spend a ton of money on it, so it's not worth keeping anymore. So they got a new price for a Ford Explorer 4x4 XLT for $39,411, and that's the one that we want to approve tonight. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dick. And those are all of the items on our unanimous consent agenda for this evening. So is there anyone in the audience who wanted to make a comment on any of those items before the trustees vote on them? Hearing none, any comments or questions from the trustees? We'll go to our, whoops.
Yep.
Oh, Trustee Ogle.
I did, thank you,
please.
Mayor. I wanted to make a comment, and I don't know if this is the time to roll the rest of this out as well, but or later in the trustee comments. But first off, I wanted to highlight the audit once again. The work that was done by Jenny Booth and the Finance Committee and our staff. It's just, you know, as a resident as well, it's one of the highest audits. There are no modifications required. I mean, it's very impressive. And Friday there was an article in the Chicago Tribune, Chicago Tribune by John Cast, and it just really highlights the differences in government in some places. He was talking about Chicago Alderman Ed Burke and the 14 indictment counts against him, alleging that he used his position to personally enrich himself through his business. Only in Illinois can we have these kind of things. And even stranger is that his spouse is on the Illinois Supreme Court and the chief judge. Not that she's done anything wrong. I think it's very important that there's no appearance of impropriety. Trust in government is at an all-time low. And in the village of Frankfort, I think that's one of the things that we have going for us, is our integrity. And it's reflected in the financials. But one of the things that I would like to see and move forward, I hope my fellow trustees and board members here would agree that we should update our ethics ordinance as well. The one that we do have on the book looks like it was last updated in 2006. And it's very, very short. It's about 1 page, essentially. So we just redid our comprehensive plan. We've gone back over that. And we're redoing things in our ordinances, buttoning those up. So I hope, as part of this, that, we'll continue to hold ourselves in Frankfort to a higher standard and make sure that we do update our ethics ordinances here too. So, and it did pass, 50-0 in the Chicago City Council. So she moved it forward. Mayor, that was all I had to say about that, and I guess we can get to the vote.
Well, thank you, Keith. We'll look at that. So I'll ask the village administrator to take a look at ethics ordinances that we have and give us a report on that. Mm-hmm. So, any other comments? Then we'll go to our clerk, Jean Savaria, for the vote.
Trustee Trevarthen.
Yes.
Borelli.
Yes.
Trustee Clavio.
Yes.
Trustee Farina.
Yes.
Trustee Ogle.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next item on our agenda is what we call the Mayor's Report. The first item on the Mayor's Report is it's Rail Safety Week, and there's a proclamation that goes along with this. I thought I would just read a couple of items from the proclamation. They're frankly a bit stunning. We have a major railroad line that goes through Frankfort. Didn't used to be a major line, but it certainly is now. And people need to be careful at these railroad crossings and be careful along the railroad line itself. This proclamation begins, whereas 2,214 rail grade crossing collisions resulted in 819 personal injuries and were responsible for 270 fatalities in the United States during 2018. And whereas 1,050 trespassing incidents have occurred in the United States, resulting in 571 pedestrians being killed and another 479 injured while trespassing on railroad property rights-of-way during 2018. That's a lot of damage and a lot of people injured and a lot of people killed, and it can be prevented by just not going on the railroad's property or the one place where you're allowed to go on their property, where there's a crossing in the street, being careful not to hit the train that's on that property or to put your car onto the railroad tracks when a train is coming. Whether the gates are working, lights are working, or anything else, don't put your car on the tracks if a train's coming. Anyway, it is a serious issue, and I know some of our neighboring communities have had some problems with crossing guards, and don't trust those things, frankly. Slow down and take a look. There's a reason that trucks and school buses and certain motor vehicles stop at railroad crossings. It's because those crossing warnings aren't always totally accurate. So I would ask that we have a motion to approve a proclamation declaring September 22nd through 28th as Rail Safety Week in the village of Frankfort.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Trustee Trevarthen and a second by Trustee Farina. Any discussion? Any comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. This coming Wednesday, we're going to have a senior breakfast in this room. We'll make a short presentation about things going on in the village. The police chief's going to talk about some of the programs that are specific to our police department and seniors, which actually we have quite a few. So that'll be very nice. And right after, and that starts at 8 o'clock, we invited people through the last issue of the Villager. It was our principal way of inviting, and I understand there are about 50-something people who have made reservations to be there. The annual Triad Senior Health Expo and Flu Shot Clinic will be held right after this breakfast, so how convenient. Come to a nice breakfast and hear some wonderful words about our community and then go get a flu shot. What a deal. Your Future, Your Frankfort, open house scheduled for September 24th. Now this is getting down to the final strokes of the comprehensive plan. This process has been going on for well over a year. We're talking about an open house with the public invited on September 24th from 6:30 to 8, once again in this room. We've had a lot of participation from Frankfort residents in this plan, and it talks principally about land use, but interestingly it gets into a lot of other items about where are we going in this community and what's our future, and frankly, what's the future for shopping centers. It even gets into some of the issues about internet shopping and what do we think's really going to happen in the future, and it's a very interesting read indeed. And all of those things get into various issues with land use. So you're welcome to attend. That's September 24th at 6:30 here at the Village Administration Building. Old Plank Road Trail 5K Run and Walk is slated for October 5th. That's a village event. That's Saturday. And it's a popular run. We typically have several hundred people come out for that. And you're welcome, and you can register online at villageoffrankfort.com. And then the Fall Country Market continues through October 27th. And it includes Country Market with a Cop, but I'll let John explain what that's going to be. It sounds like a fun event. Whenever our police are around and they're not arresting you, it is a fun event. For sure. So that concludes the mayor's report, and we'll go to our police chief, John Barica, for the police department report.
Thanks, Mayor. Like you said, we'll be at the Country Market with a Cop. We're going to do that this time. I give Sue Lynchy credit for coming up with the idea, but it'll be just like our Coffees with a Cop. We will be there. No speeches, no agendas, just listening to people from the community, what they have to say about the police department. We will have some giveaways and a police car there for kids to see. So we hope people come out and join us there. I'd like to mention with the rail safety that during that week, as we do normally, we'll have some extra special details at the rail crossings as well as on the railroad property. I'm looking for trespassers, and we do that every year with Rail Safety Week. We put an extra emphasis on that, although we're always looking for those. Luckily, we don't have too many issues here. I also want to remind people to slow down and stop at stop signs. One of our biggest complaints we get from residents is that people don't stop at stop signs and they speed through the neighborhoods. We find when we do special details and use our directed patrol out there, they end up writing tickets to mostly the residents that live in that area. So again, just slow down, especially when in residential areas, and make sure you stop at those stop signs. And of course, lock your cars, take your key fobs and keys inside, put your garage doors down at night. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, John. And with that, we'll go to our village administrator, Rob Pisha, for the village administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I just want to remind residents that branch pickup will go to the end of the week of October 4th. So just want to remind residents that we're coming up towards the end of our branch pickup season due to the fact that we do switch over for leaf pickup as we get into the fall. Now, it'll be interesting because of the fact that it's staying warmer longer. We may end up changing those times, but tentatively right now it's scheduled to end the week in October. Also, just an update to street resurfacing. I know we've seen a lot of work along Elsner Road. They're slated to do the full resurface probably the last week of September. They're still doing a lot of curb work and cement work and also sewer repair. So that's what's going on the other streets that are scheduled to be resurfacing. So you should see the rest of the work be completed towards the end of this month. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Rob. And finally, we want to hear from our village attorney. Hannah Lamore is with us this evening for the village attorney's report.
No report tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Hannah. That brings us to the part of our meeting we call Other Business, and this evening we'll start with our clerk, Jean Savaria.
Couple things. I believe the IML conference kicks off this week. I'm looking forward, it's my first year, and I'm looking forward to seeing all you guys there. The other thing I want to remind you guys, unfortunately, I don't think I can postpone it anymore, but our next meeting, we will be back to formal wear. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Jean. Trustee Clavio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Formal wear, I assume, means jacket and tie, not tuxedos.
Black tie for you.
Top hat.
The only thing I have tonight, Mr. Mayor, is just to remind and encourage our citizens to attend the open house on Tuesday of next week for the comprehensive plan. It's important to let them know they have a voice, and these forums, these workshops that we do are the way they can express their voice. And Gene, I will be there this weekend. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, John. Trustee Trevarthen.
Last couple of years, Terry might not like this comment, but we had a tremendous amount of branches laying around at the end of leaf pickup. I don't know, you gotta have a little bit of flexibility in there when it comes to making the leaf branch pickups, I think. I realize the logistics of it and the whole deal, but there was a lot of branches laying around half the winter.
Okay.
So I just a little bit of a consideration. And this gentleman's talking about dress, so I hope to be here. So I'll worry about dress that night, okay? Anyway, I don't have anything. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dick. And I do think we have a branch pickup after leaf pickup, right?
Yes, we'll do
So
some.
maybe we need some more.
We do some branch pickup where we'll actually send crews out with pickup trucks. The problem is if somebody does a large clearing, it's a little more problematic with that. But I think what's occurred is, I think, because if the season goes a little bit longer, what ends up happening, we're in the midst of leaf pickup, and then the branches just stay there, and then we don't go back around looking for branches after branch pickup. But certainly, I encourage residents, if they have branches and they know they're trimming them, just to give us a call. It makes it easier, then we know to swing by there.
Or if your neighbor has branches that
Yes.
aren't getting picked up, call the village. We're
Right.
going to figure out how to get them.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Rob.
Mhm.
Trustee Farina.
No report this evening.
Thank you, Margaret. Then Trustee Ogle.
Well, thank you, Mayor. First off, I wanted to congratulate all the half-marathon runners and also the foundation from Lincoln Way that put that together, the volunteers. Probably couldn't have had any better weather for a half-marathon, and it was great to see it because a lot of years it rained. I think it's sleeted one year, but it was all wonderful. Gene, we'll see you at the IML, which is the Illinois Municipal League, and there's a lot of training on government issues and things like that. So it's really a worthwhile time to get out there. And also to echo on someone else's point here too, was that the comprehensive plan on the 24th, when that's unveiled for the community, it's time for some of the residents to get out there and voice your opinions and your concerns about it. Some of the areas that are addressed in the comp plan, I think if you live south of Laraway Road, like Trustee Farina and I do, there's a little different development, and I think it's important, especially if you live south of Laraway Road, that you do attend and you have your voice heard as well as we're moving forward and we're making plans. And this also dovetails into some of the things that the county has in plan, as well as Chicago metropolitan area planning. That's all I have for tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Keith. And Trustee Borelli.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to echo Trustee Ogle's prior comments on the CAFR and our financial status, thanking Jenny, staff, for all their hard work that goes into that. I know it's a lot, and they come up, it's very clean when it's presented to us, but it's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and we appreciate it. But I also want to thank, that CAFR represents our financials through April 30th, 2019, so that was before three of us got onto this board. So it's really a big thank you to our past board members for putting us in this position. We're very fortunate. So thank you, Trustee Clavio, Trustee Trevarthen, Mayor Holland, Trustee Ogle, and our past board members for putting us in this situation. It's something that I certainly don't take for granted. Lastly, I just wanted to welcome back Trustee Trevarthen. It's great to have you. We miss out when you're not here on stories like the one on 123 Kansas Street. That's a great piece of history, and I love that story, and hope to keep seeing you here. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Adam. And that brings us to the part of our meeting we call public comments. Is there anyone in the audience tonight who wants to say a few words to the village board? Oh, this meeting is adjourned.